Buses hissed. Taxi horns blared. Subway grates breathed out clouds of steam that curled into the grey November sky. Office workers hurried down sidewalks with collars turned up, eyes glued to glowing screens, minds already buried in meetings that hadn't yet begun. Tucked between a narrow bookstore and a pharmacy with a flickering neon cross stood a modest cafe called Morning Light. It wasn't the kind of place influencers photographed. The paint was slightly chipped near the window frames. The chalkboard menu smudged at the corners. But when you stepped inside, warmth wrapped around you like a soft blanket. Emma Dawson pushed through the back door at subah ke 6 baje sharp, rubbing her hands together for warmth. The heating system inside the cafe always lagged behind the cold outside. She tied her faded green apron around her waist, tucked a loose strand of chestnut hair behind her ear, and started the machines. Grinding beans, steaming milk, wiping counters, habit. Her life ran on habit now. At 24, Emma felt older. Responsibility does that. Her mother's illness had progressed quietly over the past year in their small apartment in Brooklyn. Hospital visits had become routine. Prescription refills came with numbers that made Emma's stomach tighten. So she worked. Morning shift at the cafe. Evening bookkeeping for a neighbor's store. Sleep, when possible. At exactly subah ke 7:12, she always paused. It was 3 minutes before he arrived. She would glance at the clock, then at the espresso machine. Without thinking, her hands moved automatically. She selected the largest paper cup. 2 sugars, extra hot. At subah ke 7:15, the bell above the cafe door rang, not because he came inside, he never did, but because the wind pushed it slightly as she stepped out. He was already there, seated on the stone step beside the cafe window. The homeless man. His coat was frayed at the cuffs, once black wool faded to charcoal. His beard was uneven, streaked with grey. But his posture was different from the others who sometimes wandered the block. He sat upright, alert, observing. "Morning," Emma said softly, kneeling slightly to hand him the cup. "Morning," he replied, voice low and controlled. The first day she had offered him coffee, he had refused. The second day, he accepted but did not drink until she went inside. The third day, he met her eyes. Now it was simply their rhythm. Inside, customers began flooding in. Lawyers from nearby firms, assistants balancing phones and folders, young tech workers from a startup 2 blocks down, and occasionally, men in expensive coats from the towering headquarters of the Hawthorne Group at the end of the street. Emma knew the name because it was stamped on construction signs around the city. Hawthorne Group had built half the skyline. She didn't know much about its owner, except whispers from customers. He disappeared after that Chicago mess. Investors pulled out. Scandal. Fraud. Emma didn't follow business news. She followed kindness. Back outside, the man wrapped both hands around the cup, letting the steam rise toward his face. "You were early today," he said one morning. "Bus came faster," she replied. He studied her carefully. "You look tired." She laughed softly. "You should see me at midnight. You work too much." "I need to." "For what?" She hesitated. Most people didn't ask. Most people didn't care. "My mom," she said quietly. "Medical bills." He nodded once, slowly. That day, when she went back inside, her manager, Mr. Clark, was watching from the counter. "You know we can't keep giving out free drinks," he muttered. "It's 1 cup. 1 cup a day is 30 a month. 365 a year." Emma didn't argue. She understood numbers painfully well. That evening, when she counted her tips, crumpled ones and scattered coins, she did math in her head. Rent, medication, utilities, groceries, $5 for coffee. She could skip lunch. The next morning, she rang up the extra large coffee before her shift officially started. $5 from her own pocket. When she stepped outside, the wind cut sharper than usual. The man's hands trembled slightly as he accepted the cup. "You don't have to," he said, eyes narrowing slightly. She smiled. "I know." He didn't drink right away. Instead, he asked, "Why continue when it costs you?" Emma leaned against the brick wall beside him. "When I was 16, she began slowly, my dad lost his job. We were 2 weeks away from having our electricity shut off." He listened without interrupting. "One night, we came home and the lights were still on. A neighbor said someone had paid our overdue bill anonymously. We never found out who." She swallowed. "But we stayed warm that winter." Silence hung in the air, thick as fog. "So this," she gestured toward the cup, "isn't charity. It's repayment. I'm just passing it forward." He watched her like someone solving a puzzle. "You believe it comes back?" he asked. She shook her head. "Not always. Maybe not at all, but I believe habits shape who we become. If I look away once, it gets easier the next time. And you don't want it to get easier. No, she said firmly. I don't. A faint smile touched his lips, not amused, not mocking, but something close to respect. Days passed. Some customers rolled their eyes when they saw her outside. She's too soft. People take advantage. But Emma continued. On Friday, rain poured down in relentless sheets. Most pedestrians ducked under awnings or rushed into taxis. She worried he wouldn't be there. But he was. Soaked. Shivering. Without hesitation, she removed her own scarf and wrapped it around his neck before handing him the coffee. His eyes widened slightly. You'll be cold. I'll survive, she said. He stared at her longer than usual that day. Emma, he said suddenly. She blinked. How do you know my name? He gestured toward her name tag. She laughed nervously. He looked away toward the tower and glass building at the end of the block, the headquarters of the Hawthorne Group. Tell me, he said quietly, what would you do if you had power? She frowned slightly. Power, money, influence. She thought for a moment. Help quietly, she said. Big announcements feel performative. And if no one knew it was you? Even better. Something shifted in his expression then. Something heavy. The next morning, subah ke siwa 7 baje came. Emma stepped outside with the cup. The stone step was empty. No coat, no scarf, no man. She waited. 5 minutes. 10. Nothing. A strange hollowness settled in her chest. She told herself not to be dramatic. People move. Cities swallow stories whole every day. Still, she placed the cup beside the wall and whispered, just in case. By noon, it had gone cold. She threw it away quietly and returned to work. Life pressed forward. Bills still waited. Her mother still coughed at night. But somewhere deep inside, she felt the smallest flicker of something she couldn't name. She didn't know that habits, once planted, grow roots beyond what we can see. And she certainly didn't know that the man on the stone steps had never been what he seemed at exactly दोपहर के 1 बजने में 20 मिनट बाकी. A sleek black Rolls-Royce Phantom stopped in front of the cafe, its polished surface reflecting the grey skyline of New York City like a mirror of power and precision. People slowed down, phones lifted. Even inside the cafe, customers drifted toward the window. Emma was behind the counter, balancing 3 orders and apologizing for a broken card machine when the bell above the door rang. But this time, it wasn't the wind. Silence fell. A man stepped inside. Tailored navy suit, crisp white shirt, silver cufflinks that caught the light. Clean shaven, confident. But it wasn't the suit that made Emma's heart stop. It was his eyes. She dropped the milk pitcher. It clattered loudly against the floor. The homeless man, Mr. Clark, rushed forward, wiping his hands nervously on a towel. Sir, welcome to Morning Light. How can we? I'm here for Emma Dawson, the man said calmly. His voice was no longer rough. It was controlled, commanding. The entire cafe turned toward her. Emma stepped forward slowly, pulse pounding in her ears. I'm Emma. He looked at her, not like a stranger, not like a customer. Like someone who had made a decision. My name, he said clearly, is Jonathan Hawthorne. The name hit the room like thunder. Jonathan Hawthorne, owner of the Hawthorne Group. The reclusive billionaire whose real estate empire stretched from New York City to Chicago. The man the news claimed had vanished after investors accused him of reckless decisions. The man rumored to have lost half his fortune. Mr. Clark nearly choked. H. Hawthorne, as in, the building. Jonathan gave a faint nod. And, he added smoothly, as in this cafe. The air disappeared from Emma's lungs. You own this place? She whispered. Yes. Customers began murmuring. One woman gasped loudly. Jonathan stepped closer to the counter. For the past 3 weeks, he said, I've been sitting outside this establishment. Emma's hands trembled slightly. I needed to understand something, he continued. When money disappears, respect disappears with it. When power fades, so does loyalty. His gaze swept across the room. I wanted to see who people are when there is nothing to gain. The cafe felt impossibly small. You paid for the coffee yourself, he said to Emma quietly, but clearly enough for others to hear. Her cheeks flushed. It was $5. It was sacrifice, he corrected. He reached into his suit jacket and placed a folded envelope on the counter. Mr. Clark leaned forward curiously. Jonathan spoke slowly now. Emma Dawson, your consistency, integrity, and refusal to look away have demonstrated something rare. She shook her head slightly. I was just being decent. Exactly. He opened the envelope and slid out official documents. As of today, he announced, you are promoted to general manager of this location. Gasps filled the cafe. Emma blinked rapidly. What? And, he continued, voice steady but powerful, you will receive a 20% ownership stake. The room erupted. Mr. Clark staggered back, speechless. Emma felt like the floor had dissolved beneath her. I don't understand, she whispered. Why me? Jonathan leaned closer, lowering his voice slightly, but not enough to hide the emotion in it. Because Empire Dawn, T collapse from bad markets. They collapse from bad character. He paused. And you have character. Her eyes filled with tears. You didn't know who I was. You didn't expect reward. You gave when it cost you. He straightened and addressed everyone. Starting next month, the Hawthorne Group will launch a citywide initiative called the $5 Habit. Every property we own will sponsor daily meals and warm drinks for those in need. The cafe burst into applause. Emma covered her mouth in disbelief. Jonathan looked back at her. And your mother's medical expenses, he said softly, will be fully covered through our foundation. Tears spilled down her cheeks now. How do you know about my mom? She asked. He gave a small smile. When you sit outside long enough, he replied, you hear everything. The crowd laughed gently through their shock. But this, he said, holding her gaze, isn't charity. It's investment. Investment in the kind of leadership the world actually needs. He extended his hand. Will you accept? Emma looked at the familiar cafe walls. The scratched counter. The espresso machine she cleaned every morning. The window where steam curled against cold glass. She thought about subah ke siva 7 baje. About $5. About her father's words. Kindness is like brushing your teeth. Do it daily. She took Jonathan's hand. Yes, she said firmly. Applause thundered through the room. Outside, news reporters had already begun gathering, alerted by someone who recognized the billionaire's car. Flashes popped against the window. But inside, something far more powerful had just happened. Not a business deal, not a publicity stunt, a revelation. Jonathan leaned in one last time and whispered. You didn't save a homeless man, Emma. He smiled gently. You reminded a powerful one who he wanted to be.